Welcome, one and all, to a special episode of The Damage Report. It's Thursday here. You probably know that, but it's going to feel like a Wednesday because we are being joined after way too long of a break by a true classic, Jayar Jackson. How's it going?
What's going on, happy people? What's going on, John Iadarola? First of all, it's been way too long. Miss you guys, love you guys. I've been doing a few lives over on the Watchlist. Yes, it still exists. Number one.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
It still exists, and people could go watch it.
Insanity. In fact, you should run over there, tell your friends, tell your family. Also tell that other guy, I can't remember their name, but tell all of them that we're still doing it over here. And in fact, you should check us out because we get deep into these issues. The main issue I want to talk about, John Iadarola, really fast before we get into all the actual important things, is Team Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan.
I completely forgot. We have not talked about wrestling. Yeah. We're gonna save for the breaks or whatever. I will say I have maybe not the exact opinion on all that you might think, considering all that we said in the run up to the revenge tour being initiated. But we'll be talking the WWE during the break. It's definitely gonna come. Maybe we'll talk Rhea Ripley as well. But anyway, I am glad to have you here. I will say though, you can tell how much time has passed, not only from the fact that I've gone gray, but that Jayar comes back on the show. We launch into the show. I say something, I throw to him, and he talks, and he's not even muted anymore. He doesn't even accidentally mute himself anymore. He's evolved past that.
I can try.
Yeah. But anyway, super excited to have you here. I wish. We have awesome guests that are going to be joining us for every day of the RNC. And having one person always means that you can't have another. Oh, it'd be great to have you on to respond to some of the RNC stuff. We got to make it happen for the DNC.
I said it with the debate too, man. I wanted to do these things with you and maybe even Jank and Anna.
Oh, you should have been here for the debate. Oh.
I was doing it over here by myself, bro.
Yeah, I would have loved to have had you here because it was a great debate and Biden did great. Everyone, don't be mad at me. He was the best, and I'm not at all worried about the fall.
You're catching that too, huh?
So, woo. Is that good? Anyway, sorry, I'm just playing with everyone. But we have a lot to talk about. We have some fun stuff to talk about. We found a lot of different news for Jayar, and I tried to find some things that I think he'd be into. And so there is a character, one of the right-wing grifters that I don't often pay much attention to, but I know sticks in your craw, and we're gonna be talking about her later on the show in the aftermath. But we got a ton of stuff. We got legal stuff. We got Agenda 47. We have, hey, maybe a stock trading ban in Congress. Wouldn't that be cool? And Lauren Boebert, she goes to a congressional hearing. She's got her notes ready. She's done what she thinks passes for research, and she's ready to make her mark and look clever as hell. We'll be evaluating how that went for her later on in the first hour. But along the way, hit the like button if you haven't already. Send us your comments, your tweets, or super chats. We will be giving out a Blue Apron gift card at some point. For now though, Jayar, are you ready to do this thing?
I mean, I'm as ready as I'll ever be, right?
Okay, in that case, let's do it, starting with this.
I rise today to introduce articles of impeachment against Associate Justices of the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Anthony Alito Jr. Mr. Speaker, I am here today presenting these articles of impeachment not because I am a Democrat, and not because I am blind to its odds in a Republican-led chamber. I present them because it is the right thing to do. And while our framers perhaps may not have envisioned someone like me in this seat, they absolutely did envision the necessity and value of the impeachment action upon which I seek to advance today.
That is Representative Alexandra Ocasio Cortez speaking in an incredibly sober and I think measured way about the untenable situation that we've gotten into in terms of the Supreme Court. We have some wildly biased and corrupt justices, and she is now seeking to impeach two of them, two of the worst, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito Jr., accusing them of these crimes.
Against Justice Thomas, the resolution includes 3 total articles. 1 count of failure to disclose financial income, gifts, reimbursements, property interest liabilities, and transactions, among other information. and 2 counts of refusal to recuse from matters concerning his spouse's legal and financial interests before the court. The second resolution includes the following impeachment articles against Justice Alito: 1 count of refusal to recuse from cases in which he had a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party before the court, and 1 count of failure to disclose financial incomes, gifts, reimbursements, property interests, among other information.
Yeah, so she's listing a whole lot of things that they did. You have the bias on the one hand, the obvious entanglements that they and their family have in some of the cases that they have ruled on. Not just ruled on, but participated in the majority to just flout any constitutional standards, any of the precedent that we've gone into this election cycle with. And then of course you have the corruption as well. It's legion. Just years and years and years of accepting millions of dollars of gifts. They clearly believe that the law should no more apply to them than it does to Donald Trump. And we'll get to more of why AOC thinks it's so important that we make the step of impeaching these justices. But I want to turn to you, Jayar, and find out what you think about this.
Just from the first thoughts off the bat, we are considering, of course, Democrats are afraid and worried and all this stuff, considering what the response may be, maybe from her fellow Congress people over this impeachment of these Supreme Court justices, putting it forward and also pointing out that she knows this probably isn't something that's gonna go very far because of their fealty to this same process and these same people, the same corruption that we've been watching since forever. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Just because James Comer and Jim Jordan like to come up with sham investigations to come after people and then admit later that it was all BS, doesn't mean that you can't do real things like this impeachment.
Yeah.
Just because they got mad about previous impeachments that were very valid on the former president, who keeps showing us why they were very valid to this day, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it again. Just because they're gonna complain doesn't mean you shouldn't do it again. They're gonna complain no matter what. So I'm glad that she's doing it. I'm glad she's going forward with it, because if nothing else, people will pay attention to what it is that you're saying about it, even if it doesn't go to the point of getting actual impeachment proceedings completed and voting them out and everything like that, the confirmation of it. Information comes, and then people eventually go, you know what? Why the hell do we allow Supreme Court justices to take gifts and money and loans and school tuitions and flights and lodging and food and drinks and hanging out with these uber rich people that are directly connected to some of these cases? Let them ask the question, because if we keep acting like it's not happening, they'll be able to listen to the people who are screaming at them all the time to tell them they shouldn't care about it. The normalcy has to change. If they're normalizing corruption, it's time to call out corruption every time. They'll get mad at you, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And she says it has basically no chance of succeeding. And we all know why it has no chance of succeeding. And this should bother any conservatives watching this more than anyone else. It's because the Supreme Court is corrupt. There are no ethical guidelines. There's basically no legal guidelines to how much money they can take from the wealthiest people in the country, who are then gonna have business before the court, and then they will be paid back for the gifts they provided to these incredibly greedy elites. And the issue is that the Republicans in the House and the Senate mostly don't want to do anything about that, because they want to have as much access to this corrupt money as the justices do. They love the fact that they can all gorge themselves on elite money and then pay them back, but pay them back with a currency they don't care about. Policy, it doesn't matter to them. They've made the money. They've got the cushy jobs lined up as lobbyists. They're getting the campaign donations. They're getting the trips. They're getting the presents and all that. And it happens in both the House and the Senate, as well as the Supreme Court. That's why they're fine with it. And which is why later on in the show, when we talk about the stock trading ban, many of these Republicans are going to vote against it, and some Democrats too, because they are incredibly corrupt individuals. And as you said, look, the term impeachment gets thrown around all the time now because Marjorie Greene and Anna Paulina Luna don't know any other words. But they'll come up and be like, we should impeach Mayorkas because the war at the border, invasion, dereliction of duty, or like, okay, you can say whatever you want, but when you have AOC come out and say, here are the cases that they 100% should have recused themselves from. If they did not recuse themselves from these cases, then under what circumstances would they ever, let alone the obvious violations of tax law? We're not just talking about violations of ethical obligations. We're talking about legal obligations to report the income that they've received on these massive gifts. And I want to turn now to some more of AOC's argument for why this is urgent, why we need to do this. Take a look at this next section.
The abuses of power committed by Justice Thomas and Justice Alito are precisely the types of corruption that the framers understood was an existential threat to our democracy. Instances like these and misconduct like that of Alito's and Thomas's are precisely why the framers gave us the tool of impeachment. Corruption without consequence infects all it touches. And that is why this body, Congress, has a constitutional and moral obligation to hold these justices accountable, to maintain the integrity of our courts, and to uphold the standards of the judiciary and our institutions. Without action against these blatant violations, reasonable Americans have and will continue to lose faith in the court itself.
And that last bit is not hypothetical. She's not saying if we don't do anything, then people might lose confidence in the court. She's saying they have no confidence. And not just progressives or lefties or commies or whatever. Lots of conservatives have no confidence in the court because they know what it largely has been for a long time, but especially what it's become. It's a place that you just take, 40-year-old radicals from some like splinter Christian right-wing cult or whatever that like in theory could run for the House or the Senate, but that's just like so much trouble. So let's just throw them right onto the court for the rest of their lives and let them do literally whatever they want. There's no ideology to this. There's no principle. There's no precedent to this. They are activist judges because that is what they have been groomed to be. That's what they've been selected to be. That's what they were put on the court to be. And people see this and they see the actual decisions that they're putting out. They see decades-long, half-century-long precedent just evaporating because either, well, right-wing base likes it, so I guess we'll give them a bone and take away your bodily autonomy, or we'll get rid of like the Chevron deference doctrine because wealthy corporations, they don't want that to be there. They like the idea of being able to challenge these regulations decades later, not because they have more of an expertise in this area, but because it's in their own short-term profit motive to do so. And so you just have gifts given to the court for decades, and now you have every term gifts being given right back to the wealthiest individuals and companies in the country. I want to go to one last bit of AOC's commentary and then we'll discuss a bit. Take a look at this.
Lastly, we cannot ignore the most important material consequences of this court's unchecked corruption and its resulting influence: the suffering of the American people. We cannot ignore and pretend that this corruption is wholly unrelated to the millions of pregnant Americans now suffering and bleeding out in emergency rooms under the court's unleashing of extreme abortion bans across the United States, which was a key political priority of these undisclosed benefactors and shadow organizations surrounding Alito and Thomas's misconduct. Nor can we ignore the millions of Americans now suffering hours-long wait times in the hot sun, often without water, just to cast a ballot, also a direct result of this corrupt court's gutting of the Voting Rights Act, allowing the closing of polling sites across the country. You see, neither these justices nor their shadowy benefactors have to answer to the parents of developmentally delayed children about their decision to gut the power of the EPA and the entire administrative state with it. But they do have to answer to us, the Congress, whom these people, the American people, have elected and entrusted to protect them, to serve them, and to defend the well-being of our democracy.
I appreciate and agree with almost everything that AOC said there. I particularly agree that they don't have to answer to those who've suffered under their decisions. They don't have to answer to a whole bunch of people. The only thing I potentially agree with, I think she might have gotten a little ahead of herself, is that they have to answer to us, the representatives. That very much remains to be seen, because you have enough bought Republicans and some bought Democrats filling space, taking up space in Congress, that they might not have to listen to them. And if they don't have to listen to them, if the most blatant political corruption we've ever seen in our whole life, worse than the corruption that's taken out Congress people, that's taken out senators, it's worse than Menendez, it's decades long, and you can see the quid pro quo. If that does not get you impeached, then let's just take the Constitution and would just Sharpie out the section about impeaching them, because it will literally never happen at this point. And so I'm glad that she's at least giving us an opportunity as a political culture, as a community, as a government, to test, to see if we're gonna do anything about this, or if we should prepare for even more emboldened, brazen corruption to come. Jayar?
Well, it's weird because it seems like it's already there. But this is the thing. She talked about the Voting Rights Act. She talked about access to women's reproductive health care and all this stuff being a part of it, and the connections to that, and how they kind of just don't give a damn because that's not their life, bro. And we see those stories. The ones that we saw specifically from women who nearly died or had to escape their state as if it was like in a hostile environment, a foreign country or something, as a refugee from their state just to get normal health care for something that's happened with them, then if they don't care about those stories, which it does when those particular women are telling it, but maybe not so much when AOC is telling it, because we've already been told how much we hate AOC. That whole thing about alternative facts from years and years ago, I've been thinking about this. When Kellyanne Conway pushed the alternative facts like a week into Donald Trump's term, and that has become the normalcy for everything else that's happened. Everything else that you can say that's obvious fact in front of these people's faces is, no, but that came from you. I don't really believe that. Donald Trump didn't say so. There's no other recourse. If you tell them, and literally, not even tell them, we're looking at the facts in front of us. We're looking at the lists of the things that Clarence Thomas accepted in this quid pro quo. But it doesn't matter to them because they're like, but that's Justice Thomas. He's in support of my guy. They've been told not to care about corruption, blatant, obvious corruption, even though it's right in front of their faces. So the only thing left, as you said, there's not much of a thing that Congress people can do because, again, the majority of the Congress barely is still on the side of pursuing this type of stuff. Only thing left is for maybe some of the justices that are still in there to start exposing this corruption. Yo, I think it was Lauren Windsor went and talked to a couple of these Supreme Court justices undercover and exposed some of the things that they say and think and feel in directions that they like to go and how they think the country should be. That doesn't matter because, it's just this random person. It has to get drastic before it gets drastic. So maybe other folks within the court have to be the ones to say, yo, look, my colleague Clarence Thomas is doing this, this, and that. It seems pretty dirty, but you know what's dirtier? Being a corrupt Supreme Court justice and making sure that this guy has completely unqualified immunity for everything that he wants to do.
100%. Yeah, and look, long term, right now, obviously, we're caught up in the election. We're doing our damnedest in a variety of ways, even if we get opposed from all sides to defeat Donald Trump. But in the medium term, we go back to trying to put as many good people into office as possible. That effort has suffered a lot of damage, as a consequence of the fact that we had a Democratic president. Honestly, we've seen less of that. There have been some good people that have entered office since then, but we need to go back to doing that. And I know a lot of you will immediately think, well, yeah, we do that. And then, some of them turn out to be absolutely horrible, Fetterman. Some of them get taken out by AIPAC money, and some of them, all of that is true. So we should probably just surrender. That would be simpler. But no, this is all like, the Death Star sucks. It's got to be taken down. We should blow it up. They have TIE fighters. They have cannons along the trench. The hole is so small. Well, yeah, you still got to try though, because the alternative is that your planet gets blown up. Okay, and judicially, our planet is getting blown up. And in terms of the climate, it's getting blown up. So we need to do something about that, and we will return to that. Before we move on to the last update about Clarence Thomas, I just want to say thank you to the Democrats that are co-sponsors on the resolution that AOC is talking about there. You have Jamal Bowman, one of his last acts, perhaps. Jasmine Crockett, love to see her on that list. Maxwell Frost, Barbara Lee, Ilhan Omar, Delia Ramirez, Rashida Tlaib, and Bonnie Watson Coleman. And that's it. Feel like there could be more there. And I know what you're thinking. Well, you cannot be a co-sponsor and then still vote for it. Yeah, but there's probably not gonna be a vote. So if you want to put your name down on this, now would be a great time to do that. And so I would have loved to have seen a lot more names on that. Might have drawn more media attention. I mean, the New York Times covered it. It's AOC that draws attention, but feel like there should be more names there than 8. But anyway, let's turn to. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead. I'm agreeing. It's more the fear, and I'm not sure why. What's left?
Yeah. Can you add my name to that, Representative? Anyway, let's turn now to yet more corruption. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has now been accused of not disclosing a yacht trip to Russia and a private helicopter flight to a palace in Vladimir Putin's hometown. Oh, this sounds like such a nice vacation for a wealthy elite to take. That's among many other gifts, vacations, loans that hadn't been previously disclosed. And I know what you're thinking. When I know this story, ProPublica talked about, no, this is more trips, more palaces, more. That's my best Clarence Thomas impersonation. I don't know what he sounds like, he doesn't talk much. But anyway, buried on page 14 of a letter that 2 Democratic senators sent to AG Merrick Garland on Tuesday, where they urged Garland to appoint a special counsel to probe Clarence Thomas, we talked about that yesterday on the show, was an astonishing list of dozens of, quote, likely undisclosed gifts and income from Harlan Crow's affiliated companies, and, quote, other donors. So that includes a loan of more than $267,000 provided by Anthony Welters. That's the RV loan. The yacht trip to Russia from the Baltics. The helicopter ride to Yusupov Palace in St. Petersburg. Sounds delightful. ProPublica first reported last year on the existence of extensive undisclosed gifts and lavish trips from Crow, and we just keep on finding out about more. And it's so weird that we keep on finding out about more, because when they raised the issue of his corruption, he did disclose some. I guess, the trip to the Russian palace just, slipped his mind. Maybe he didn't take enough photos, so he didn't remember that he'd gone on a yacht trip to Russia and visited a Russian palace. But anyway, like, we can bring up this list. There's trips, and there's tuition for his grandnephew, and there's free lodging, and there's real estate transactions, and there's home renovations, and there's corruption, and there's corruption, and there's corruption, and there's corruption, and it keeps piling up to the tune of millions of dollars, and it should be unacceptable. But as of right now, maybe it's not. What do you think, Jayar?
There needs to be more people willing to ask these questions. I understand that finally, because I've been talking about it for a while, just in bits and pieces, because I didn't think everyone think I'm crazy. The Project 2025 thing is now one of the main things getting talked about, right? Ever since the debate, especially. At one point, is someone going to go on Meet the Press? Any of these folks who don't believe in having a Supreme Court that's above corruption, and ask them, just hit them with this list. Any congressperson, senator, governor, I don't care who they are. Ask them. So are you in favor of this level of undisclosed gifts and trips and lodging and food and all this just for one Supreme Court justice member and a couple of others as well? Are you, why? No, don't ask them, are you? Why are you okay with this? Because you haven't done anything else about it. Why would you not sign on to this anti-corruption process that many of these folks are putting forward to make sure this happens? Because I remember before we had to go for this further list, there was Democrats in the House that were saying, yo, you mentioned the ProPublica article. Maybe we should put forward some kind of things where we are actually checking these Supreme Court justices rather than just trusting that they're gonna do all right. We're seeing right now that they're not doing all right. That's already been blown through. But people wanna oppose that. Why do you want to oppose it? It would still apply to Justice Sonia Sotomayor. It would also apply to every other one of the ones that you actually dislike. They have to follow it as well. So what's the downside? Is you protecting your guys that you think are the ones gonna follow up and actually make sure that your policies come through or that the immunity rulings come down in your favor? It's gotta be made obvious by asking them the question rather than assuming that that's just where they are. We're gonna see it later. Ask them the question. Why do you support corruption? Because there's no other way to put it. It's corruption.
Yeah, I think we need to get a couple of billionaires on the line to be like, okay, this is cool. Okay, we're gonna just give millions of dollars to the libs or whatever. Now they're not the majority. Maybe that doesn't matter that much, but you could totally do it. I would say if I'm trying to get in the mind of a right winger as to why they really wouldn't mind that, they might say that they mind that, but why they wouldn't really mind that is they believe that the lib justices will not be as corrupt, but not as corrupt. That they will be given these gifts by the same people corrupting the conservatives, so they honestly don't mind. And 3, that they know that it just all comes down to the majority is conservative, they have the numbers, so they're not worried about it. And also that they really just don't care about corruption at all. They just want more of it themselves. But anyway, I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I'm glad that AOC is talking about it, and then at least some Democrats get that this is something we should be focusing on in an election that could determine control of the Supreme Court for potentially decades to come. And with that, we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, Agenda 47 and more. Okay, everybody, lots of comments about JR. Fritza Jocks with a super chat saying, yay, JR's in the house. Kay says, JR, yay, which is the opposite of the last one. Benjamin Morrill says in a super chat, JR, yep, all is well again. Well, no, but you feel me. Much love, my brother, John, too.
We're getting there.
We can't pretend that everything's okay, but let's see. Curl Dragon says, literally went, JR, yay, glad to see you on TDR. E-Rock says, JR, the man, the myth, the legend, welcome back, peace and love to all. Boomer Dragon Cat says, JR, just listening to your dulcet tones soothes the soul. All feels right in the world, at least for the moment. I love it.
For everything.
Yeah. Mantis Dragon says in a super chat, my favorite dynamic duo back together again. My husband and I loved the Watchlist report, seeing JR sneaking in for his show. Well, remember, Watchlist still there. Go keep watching.
I basically gave away this game yesterday on the live that I did, just so you guys know, lives still happen. They're random.
There. One great thing about COVID, that was back during that period. I lost my husband in August. Seeing y'all today fills my heart. I'm really sorry to hear that, Mantis Dragon, but I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And May Money into Building says, hey, May Money, member for 42 months says, what? J. Mac Jackson is back. Tell a friend. Potty time. My boo Clay Thompson has broken up with, and all sorts of foolery since you've been gone. How you doing? Oh, hi, John. Didn't see you there.
Damn.
Always got to get me at the end.
Some things just never change.
But anyway, thank you.
By the way, I'm sorry, May Money. I love me some Clay Thompson. I'm going to be rooting slightly for Dallas this year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like that player on that team of the sport that I'm aware of. Ricky the Steamboat says in a super chat, not the biggest wrestling fan, but I had to pick this name for the squad. Much love, John and JR, best tag team ever. Thank you. Okay, so really fast, indulge us. So since you've been gone, Liv Morgan has succeeded, defeated Becky Lynch. She has taken the belt. She has taken Dom. And now Rhea is back. I will say, look, I'm enjoying their segments. It is funny, and Carlito is having so much fun. That said, you can't have Liv just wrestle Zelina Vega twice over the course of 2 months or whatever. You got to put her in a match. If you want us to think there's any chance against Rhea Ripley when she returns, you got to have her dominate some people. She's the champion. Have her have some squash matches. Put her up against, I don't know, Michin or something, and have her like whomp her. I don't know, but what are you thinking about the reign?
I think I see your point, because I hadn't thought about it that way, but they're focused so hard on the story, and it's a great story, that I think they forgot about making her a solid champ, which actually scares me. This will be a very easy comeback and takeover for Rhea to come back to, and it's a little bit frustrating. This should be more of a fight, actually.
Look, here's the thing. Rhea has to lose at SummerSlam. I know that everybody wants her to win. But that makes it, that's right. That's like a bully coming back and defeat. No, she has to lose first. And that means you got to come up with something for Liv. I know that she's half the size of Rhea, but let her focus on a knee or something. Like, she has to win. That said, since I haven't loved the reign that much, I've put some of my attention on I've been enjoying some other people. Chelsea Green's been a lot of fun. And also, I think Lyra Valkyria is really good. And I think in a couple of years, she's going to be huge. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, she's going to have to convince me of that. That's all I have to say about her.
Really good in the ring. They've given her no time on the mic, but she's really good in the ring.
I'll see.
She took some bumps. I don't know if did you see that Zoe Stark bump at Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
I thought EO killed her.
Yeah.
That
was crazy.
If you told me I'll give you $50 million to take that bump, I would not do it. Zoe Stark might be dead. Anyway, thank you for indulging us, everyone. And now back to politics. I'm gonna give a Blue Apron gift card to someone who did indulge us. Xander, if you haven't already gotten one, send an email to rewards@tyrtnetwork.com for the comment, have Dom turn on Rhea at SummerSlam. That is one way to do it.
100%.
That is 100% the way to do it. But anyway, I can't wait for SummerSlam. Anyway, okay, with that said, apologies to everyone who doesn't care about wrestling, but I will say, consider it. It's really good right now. I stopped watching for like 20 years, but it is very good right now.
Same here. You know what? Yeah. And it gets your mind off of corrupt people like Justice 100%.
Thomas. You know what happens in wrestling? The good guy wins sometimes. Not like reality. Sami Zayn can win in wrestling. He couldn't win in Congress. Anyway, okay, with that said, let's turn to what might happen after the bad guys win once again. Donald Trump wants you to think that he doesn't have anything to do with Project 2025, but his own personal platform, Agenda 47, is basically the exact same thing. And so whether he's distancing himself from Project 2025 because it's getting bad press or whatever, let's focus on what he is not distancing himself from. And we'll go through all this. We've got video of him bragging about these policies. We've got comparisons between Project 2025 and Agenda 47 because there's so much overlap there. But here is what he said, I believe earlier today about Project 2025. I know nothing about Project 2025. I have not seen it, have no idea who's in charge of it, even though a bunch of them worked for me in the White House. And unlike our very well-received Republican platform that, again, has massive overlap with it, had nothing to do with it. The radical left Democrats are having a field day, however, trying to hook me into whatever policies are stated or said. It is pure disinformation on their part. By now, after all these years, everyone knows where I stand on everything. DJT, and that is largely true. And that's why I'm depressed, and that's why my hair turned white. But but anyway, Project 2025, if you don't know, and by now you probably do, go watch John Oliver, wants to gut the civil service, putting far more roles in federal government in the hands of a president as political appointees, basically lackeys, which would erode checks and balances. Trump, for his part, tried to do the same in 2020, shortly before losing the election, an idea known as Schedule F. That's in Agenda 47, by the way. It's in Project, first of many things that are in both because they're the same thing. Project 2025 also proposes mass deportations of more than 11 million undocumented immigrants and stringent rules on migrants. So does Trump, so does Agenda 47, and so does the RNC's platform. Trump also wants to get rid of the federal education department, which Project 2025 also does, echoing a long-held policy wish on the right. The project details how this could happen and other ways to give states more control over education at the potential expense of students. And so we're gonna get in a sec into some of the video. But Jayar, what do you make of this? Is his attempt to be like, I don't know anything about that thing that is exactly everything I said I would do?
That's the thing. They know how ridiculous people are. Again, back to the alternative facts. This is the basis for so many things. It doesn't matter what you see, hear, experience, or is proven to you. Evidence means nothing. What we have is an alternative set of facts. That's what it is. That's all it is constantly. So all he has to say is I know nothing about this. All it is 95% of the same policy that I put on Agenda 47. I'm seeing people comment on people talking about Project 25 and then going, that's not his agenda. Check out Agenda 47. And then when you go check out Agenda 47, guess what's there?
Yeah.
It's like they don't realize that people go, that's a good idea. You know what? I thought Project 2025 was the basis for his entire platform. Let me go check out his actual platform that you, supporter of Donald Trump, told me to go look at. And then when you go look at it, please go ahead and look at it. It's a lot of the same stuff. So whatever he doesn't know about, he does know about. Now, the truthful part, outside of just the everybody knows what I stand for, which is fascism, other truthful part that he's saying is, I mean, I don't put all these things together. I mean, I have not seen, I have no idea who's in charge of it. You do, but even on his Agenda 47, you think Donald Trump wrote that up? You think Donald Trump thought about the details of this fascist agenda? All he said was, I want to be a king. And they went, gotcha, brother. We want that too. In fact, we want some white supremacy power behind it as well. We got your whole platform set up. We'll put it together for you. Do you really think that the guy who doesn't like to read past one page, or the guy who reads pictures and understand anything that he's done, we watched him in the White House for 4 years, know who he is. So do you really think this guy, they say, oh yeah, Project 2025 has all these details to it, but the president said anything that anything his platform is what he's gonna decide. Since when? When does he think that far? All he thinks about is praise and loyalty.
Yeah, and by the way, you'll notice what isn't in this message or the other one of like, Project 2025, they're trying to tie me to it. Which parts of it do you disagree with? You're saying you don't know what it is, but you've had plenty of time. So which specific parts do you disagree with? He's not saying anything because he doesn't disagree with it. I don't think anyone is gonna be scammed by this. And by the way, before we get into the video, I just wanna point out, this is a very rare strategic blunder by the right, a branding blunder, because it is our job and our honor every election cycle to point out how utterly radical the Republican agenda is. But like, it's complicated to do that. You have to talk about abortion, then you talk about education, then you talk about all this stuff. And the right's like, let's just put one name on how bat-esque crazy we are to make it super easy to refer to all of it. And now we can do that. And it's there. They put together the list of the insane things they believe. It's like, it's a branding blunder on the same level as when Sean Hannity will do the exact opposite. And he's like, the left is crazy. Here's a list of all the crazy things they want, like your grandma to not die, and like that sort of thing. It's like, you guys didn't really think about this that much, did you? But that said, Donald Trump, while trying to distance himself from Project 2025, is lauding the exact same policies with his Agenda 47. Let's turn to one of the videos he's posted on his website. This one about gender.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
Okay, so maybe he's trying to distract us with an allusion to mutation or whatever that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Bear in mind, Donald Trump will do all of what he said there. He will make life measurably more difficult for millions of people who have already and always have had it difficult in America because of who we are as a people and what our culture is like. He will do all of that, but not because he understands it or truly cares about it. He's willing to do tons of incredibly reprehensible and cruel things. So I guess that's what the base likes. I don't know. I don't really even care about it. Mutation or something. I don't care about this gender affirming care. But yeah, no, I'll ban all that healthcare. I'll make your life a living hell. That's who he is. He's intentionally cruel in some areas, aggressively cruel, and he's also passively cruel. He's perfectly happy to ruin people's lives without having to understand anything about it. Let's turn to another example of the sorts of videos you can find for Agenda 47 on his website.
As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago.
He is among the dumbest people I think that has ever lived on earth. You could write a book 10,000 pages long about all of the things he doesn't understand. And he's also incurious. He doesn't want to understand these things. He is scared of his own ignorance, so he just asserts facts that aren't true. Nobody's ever known about this trans thing until, I think it was spring 2014, I think it came. No, that's absolute madness. You're like, I cannot use the language I want to in the first hour of the show to describe how utterly stupid he is. But I do agree with the first part of it. I do think that we should propagandize to kids in school about the nuclear family because it's done so well for him in his life. Nuclear family is you get married, you have some kids, and then you F around on your wife. According to her, you rape her, and then you dump her ass, and then you find another person, you start a second family, and then you F around on her, and then eventually dump her ass, and then you import someone to marry, then you marry that person, and then while they're pregnant with your child, you F around with adult film stars, and then you pay to cover it all up. And I think that's what the nuclear family is, and I'm pretty sure all of that is described pretty well in the 10 Commandments. I think, JR. So anyway, that's the sort of thing he's talking about in Agenda 47. It's literally the Agenda 47 section of his website. It is the same exact thing as Project 2025. So don't believe the hype. They're not softening on abortion. He's not distancing himself from Project 2025. It is who he is and what his second term will be. And what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. And just like going back to reading his agenda, they know people won't. Because if they do, they're gonna go, wow, that's kind of weird. Maybe watch his video since you like watching his face. So then as he's talking about no serious country should allow parents to tell their kids what they are. Under what circumstance do you have any proof of that? Just throwing things out there. Just saying that, people are telling their kids what they need to be and who they are. Guess what that is? Anyone's ideologies on their life at all. What parent doesn't tell their kids about life from their perspective? But there's some legislation that you're gonna press Congress to do that's gonna tell people not to teach their kids whatever the hell they want to teach their kids. Again, if you just listen rather than just hear him, you'll understand what he's saying. He's gonna tell you how to raise your children. He's gonna tell you what you do inside of your house that he has no idea what you do. After your child comes to you or you've lived with them for 10, 15 years of their lives and you know your child, this random guy in this limited government that Republicans love to talk about is gonna come and stick his grubby, sticky fingers into your house and say, you know what you do with your kid? What I tell you to do with your kid. When are these ads gonna start running? Run his dumbass face saying these things, put a deep voice over the top and red eyes on him and go, I'm coming into your house. Because that's what the hell he's talking about doing. Yeah. Every time, and next time you complain about this overreaching state and how we gotta rid out the deep state from all of these people, these bureaucrats that wanna get involved in your life, just illustrate to them exactly what it is that they're supporting, which is the same thing, just based off of their belief systems, because apparently they're better than you.
I love that. And the only thing that I want to add before we move on is we all know that one of the ways you become a really dedicated and passionate conservative is that you are either born or perhaps taught to have literally no empathy whatsoever for anyone who isn't exactly like you. We understand that. But you can see it in the way they talk about these issues, not just the issues they focus on, not just the positions they have, but the way they talk about it. They have defense mechanisms that they out themselves on to not develop empathy. You'll notice it's not that the kid is saying they're a girl and they're wrong. No. It's gotta be that the parents are telling them that they were the wrong gender. The school is telling them, because I don't want to have to think about what it would be like as the person to believe that I was born a different way. Because then I would have to, like, it's empathy, it's compassion. I don't like it. No, someone told them. Someone told them. In the same way that when they talk about migrants crossing the border, they were sent. It's not that there was a person who was in a difficult position and made the decision to come, risking their life, their safety, maybe were assaulted, sexually assaulted on the way, many die. No, because then I'd have to think about who they are and how tough it is. That would be empathy, that would be compassion. I don't want it. The government sent them. They out themselves in that way. They don't have the inclination to experience empathy, and they have sophisticated, for them, mentally sophisticated defense mechanisms to avoid themselves ever even accidentally experiencing empathy.
It's anyway, the same set of questions, John. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Just be curious. Ask these idiots.
Just be curious.
Be like, oh, really, who does that? Wait, when did that happen? How do they pull that off? They don't have these answers because it's not real.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're gonna take a short break. We come back, more news after this. Okay, I think we're gonna get to C and D in the next block. We'll see what happens. If he has to go to tomorrow, it's acceptable. Okay, so let's read some comments, everyone. Gabby Marita says, Booty Dragon is so happy that Jayar is finally back on TDR. Thank you, that's awesome. I Give Up says, John, have you considered using overtone color conditioner to get the purple back without the dye? Is that a thing? If I were to do this, let's say I decide to do this, and maybe I will. I don't think I would do purple again. I'm kind of curious about blue, actually, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, my daughter's first birthday party is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed, completely randomly. She has no interest in much specifically at this age, but maybe I'll do green so that I'll fit in. Maybe I'll color my hair to look like the ooze. But anyway, Cat Lemon became a member, thank you. And Benjamin Morrill gifted a membership, thank you so much. Stickman Grit says in Super Chat, John, the good guys win. Me, gestures wildly at Vince and his enablers still at the company. No, Vince is done. He's divested himself. Unless I'm mistaken, he's entirely divested financially from it. I think, pretty sure.
I thought so.
Antisocial Dragon, member for 37 months, says, I missed Big News Wednesdays with JR. Hope you're back for good, even if it's a Thursday. Well, I mean, I'm hoping that this will fit into your workflow and it can become a regular thing. I think that would be awesome.
That is the question. Let's go ahead and mention that workflow. Watchlist is still happening. It's just we do set aside pre-taped videos. That's the only difference. Continue, John Iadarola.
Jonah Morton says in Super Chat, so Agenda 47, a conspiracy theory of a global takeover, is now the name of the Donald J. Trump presidential agenda. John, stop reading Weekly World News, which I did read when I was young. I thought it was entertaining. Hey, I didn't name his presidential agenda. He named it. And it's not difficult to figure out why it's called Agenda 47, by the way. But it is bad. It is bad. Anyway, James the Fuzzy Dragon, member for 42 months, says, John doing his best Kylo Ren. More! Jayar, like an old friend coming home after years apart. I have the Muppets together again playing in my head. That's funny. And I think that was a reference to the Clarence Thomas, the corruption. More. I love that moment. It's Jedi. It's a good movie. Give it a try. Anyway, okay, we'll get to more comments at some point, but first, more wrestling. So, what do you think? SummerSlam, Gunther's coronation, so to speak. He's already the king, but you think Gunther's gonna win it?
I would not like for it to happen, but it will, just because they love.
You would not like for it to happen.
It's just as quick as Rhea suddenly running back in and getting the title as well too. So if Gunther just runs in, but they have to because
he won King of the Ring 2 months ago.
That's the point. What's going to be is they have to have him win, even though there should always be a struggle before you get to the top. Just a struggle.
I agree there should be a struggle, and I definitely would like to see like a week or two of the Judgment Day ambushing him over and over. But the thing is that they're not going to do that because they're pitching Damian Priest to be the good guy in this fight. But I would say in terms of establishing yourself, there are few people as established as absolute killers as Gunther.
That's why
that's a different situation than Liv Morgan.
That's why they can't.
Yeah.
Sucks though. I mean, I'm not
anyway,
a Gunther guy, I guess. That's a problem.
I am excited to have Rhea back. It's too bad that we have to wait until next week to see any more of her.
You should have heard the screams from my child when this is my brutality. As soon as it happened, I heard nothing else for the next 5 minutes because he was screaming. Right.
Her return got spoiled for me because I never watch live, unfortunately, and also because we're on the West Coast, so it can get spoiled even if you watch live. But I was very excited. And that said, Jade Cargill's been pretty cool. And Tiffy Time, you a fan of Tiffy Time?
Actually, I am, strictly because of that moon somersault. That's pretty dope.
Moonsault's very good. I don't like some of the personal stuff that she's done on the internet. That's not great.
I heard some little blurbs here and there, but I'm scared.
There's some racial stuff. Anyway, let's talk some more news, everybody. Hit the like button if you haven't already as we launch into this.
We should limit any elected official from owning stocks in industries that they have the power to impact. We should make sure people who bundle campaign contributions for Congress can't lobby Congress, and vice versa. These are ideas that should garner bipartisan support.
People love to say that the US government functions slowly, if at all, but I disagree. Right there, you have the president saying we should ban individual stock trading for our legislators, and it's only taken 12 years to maybe do it. But it is being put forward. Bipartisan support for an individual stock trading ban for members of Congress is going forward. And maybe it'll succeed. What this legislation would do would be to prevent lawmakers from buying stocks and other types of financial assets while also blocking them from offloading stocks 90 days after the law's enactment. It would also apply to spouses and dependent children starting in 2027, because if it didn't, that would be absolutely insane. And it would also extend to the president and the vice president. Penalties for failing to comply with the divestment requirements are to exceed either the monthly salary of the government official or 10% of the value of each asset, whichever is higher. So that's something. I would personally say if it's a percentage of the asset, it could still theoretically be in their financial interest to do it. So I would go slightly further and I would lock them up. If you are told you can't trade stocks and you still do it anyway, throw their asses in prison. You're supposed to be in Congress to work for us, not for your own financial interests. You're already being paid more than 99% of the rest of us. You're already lining up careers where you're gonna be paid even more. You do not need to benefit from your stock trading while you're in office. And if you go around the law and do it, you should be thrown in prison. But that's not how far they're going. They're not going nearly that far. And as of right now, this would include trading of securities, commodities, futures, options, trusts, and other comparable holdings. Look, I'm personally fine if they want to trade like an index fund or something. If they want some generalized thing that is only pegged to the overall performance of the stock market, that perhaps actually might inspire them to do things that are good for the economy, I suppose. But individual stocks, anything like that, no way in hell. They have been making crazy what should be illegal money for years on this, and it needs to finally change. We'll get to a demonstration of how much they've been abusing the system, but Jayar, what do you make of this?
Real fast. I always wonder, now I've wondered this just now specifically. So this penalty that may come, whatever it may exceed the monthly salary of a congressperson, whoever's breaking the law. First off, more than that, actual, penalties that anyone else would receive for cheating the system and things like that. But whatever fines come, where does that go? Maybe it should go to disadvantaged people. Maybe it should go to this college loan plan that Joe Biden hesitated and head faked on and back away from. It should go to people where it actually benefits the country, considering they're trying to make money off of everyone else just based off of their position. So when the American people trust you with electing you into this position, and then you use it for corruption to make money for your own self and your family, maybe that should go back to the American people that were scammed out of trusting you. Nothing ever goes back to the American people that got cheated. Where does it go? Where does it go? And maybe that aspect of it will make them think twice and go, you know what? I hate those damn plebes so much. I'm not gonna do this, because if I get busted, it might actually go to them, man. F them. Yeah. We need something different in the way that this approaches, because they need more disincentives from doing stuff like this.
100%. I mean, look, we'll see if this even happens. I hope that it does. We're putting this forward as good news. I also, like, in the pit of my stomach, think that the Supreme Court would probably kill this. I mean, why not? They'll do literally anything they want at this point. But oh my God, if it was up to me, I'm not even just talking about the fact that I'd throw them in jail if they break this. They would be making far less money. We could have a conversation about them making the federally mandated minimum wage personally. Also, I would literally have higher taxes on our elected officials. I would have a significant wealth tax. I would have not only restrictions to stop them from financially benefiting from their elected officials or elected positions, I would have financial disincentives. Because I think we should be actively discouraging people who primarily think about the world in terms of their own financial interests from holding elected office. I would love to have an opportunity where people go into elected office for some other reason than that. We've had a couple hundred years of the status quo. Let's try something different. Let's get them in because they actually care about policy or they actually care about the constituents. Let's have people who are going to come into office and leave office no more wealthy than they were, because that is not how it generally works. I mean, you look at this, a comparison of the stock returns of these elected officials versus the stock market's yield over the year or whatever. And generally they say that if you make like 8, 9, 10%, that's pretty good in the stock market. Well, then if you're making 50 or 60%, I guess you're just way smarter than the rest of us. I suppose you're just a genius when it comes to stocks or whatever. And it's not just Republicans on there. There's a lot of Republicans on there, but it's not just them. There's also a number of Democrats. Let's do something about it. Anyway, with that said, we don't have much more time. I think we should jump into our final story of the hour, starting with this.
I'm asking about the EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them, or are you going to stop altogether since it's been overturned?
Do you understand the ruling?
Oh, you can see where this is going with Lauren Boebert. And the issue is she could be right. He could be wrong. That's Michael Regan, the administrator of the EPA. She could have a good point. I mean, after all, the Supreme Court did just hurt the ability of our bureaucracy to regulate things, just not at all in the way she seems to think or wants to think that it has. And he asks there, do you understand the ruling? Allow her to demonstrate that no, she very much does not.
Do you understand the ruling of the Supreme Court?
I do. And so your question is ill-formed. No.
Will you be repealing?
We're not going to stop.
So you're going to unconstitutionally continue with these rulemakings.
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work.
So which rulemakings are you going to roll back?
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work in accordance to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court.
So which ones are you going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory.
Boebert. I know that that's what you want to believe the Supreme Court did, but that's just not what they did. And by the way, in the long term, I guess the joke will be on us because they did allow a lot of these regulations to be challenged, and how regulations are formed in the future will be different. But they in no way said that every regulation that's ever happened needs to be repealed, you'll be shocked to find out that's not what they did. And so her question is, as Michael Regan said, ill-formed. You could also call it bad built, perhaps. But anyway, she doesn't understand this. Thankfully, Representative Dan Goldman is on hand to clarify things for her.
Mr. Regan, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I would just like to clarify a few things for my colleague from Colorado. The Loper-Bright ruling, as you know, said that the courts should not defer to agency rulemaking if a statute is ambiguous, and instead the courts get to determine whether or not what the statute means. Is that your understanding as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that would not require any regulations to be reversed or overturned, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, correct. And this is not complicated. I mean, lots of stuff in government is complicated. Lots of stuff, particularly when you're talking about the Supreme Court and their decisions, is complicated. And long term, this might be complicated. Right now, it's not complicated. Honestly, it's on a level that I would have expected even Lauren Boebert could have understood it. But the issue there, the reason that she has fumbled this is the reason that she always fumbles it. She gets too excited. She just thinks, oh, I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have this moment and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna do my hair because I know the cameras are on me and I'm gonna spread this on Twitter and I'm gonna look like AOC. I'm gonna look like Jasmine Crockett. I'm gonna look like Katie Porter. I'm gonna look so clever because I'm in the right, but don't know because you don't understand anything and you don't care to understand anything. You could have done the research. You could have read an Axios article about what the Chevron deference doctrine being reversed actually does. It takes like 45 seconds. I think that that's within the realm of the possibility even for Lauren Boebert, but no, she's just too eager to get the moment. And honestly, I wouldn't even discount the possibility that she will just clip out her saying things should be overturned and spread it anyway, because she knows that her constituents aren't gonna actually look that up. But for now, it's just another, it reminds me of the time she started asking questions nonstop about public urination and she just didn't understand what she was talking about. She's just not AOC and she's not Jasmine Crockett and she's not Katie Porter and she's unlikely to ever be. That said, I will say, as I alluded to earlier, long term, they will get a lot of what they want. It's why it's so crazy that they've overturned the Chevron deference doctrine. They don't have to automatically get rid of any of these regulations, but they could be challenged. And then courts, including courts staffed with people who don't have any medical knowledge or energy knowledge or environmental knowledge or anything, could make decisions based exclusively off of ideology. So long term, she could get some of what she wants. But the idea that magically you wake up and all federal regulations are gone is absolutely absurd. It's buffoonish, even for Lauren Boebert. Okay, with that said, Jayar disconnected for some reason. We're gonna get him back for the aftermath, so don't worry about that. But I wanna thank everyone who's been watching the first hour. If you've been listening as well, those of you on the podcast, as always, rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I'm gonna read some of the reviews soon. We read all of them, but I'm gonna read some of them actually live. I wanna thank everybody for your support. That said, we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna get Jayar, we'll reconvene, and we'll be back for the aftermath, in which we're gonna be doing sort of like the baddie report. There's just a lot of terrible people saying a lot of terrible stuff, and we're gonna give you our thoughts coming up right after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. John Iadarola here, Jayar Jackson as well, host of the On the Air Now Watchlist that you can go. What's the YouTube channel for everyone to go to?
It's Watchlist TYT, you guys. Go check it out. Yeah, we put up a couple videos every day, preset. I put together what I'm thinking, slap the right videos with it. Catch us, man, catch us. It's much needed. Tell your friends, tell your family, man. Let everybody know what's going on, what we're still doing. I still jump in and do lives every once in a while. Keep your eyes on that. And the way you know is you got to subscribe, click the whole thing. I think they have a bell and all that other stuff they like to talk about. And we'll let you know when it's happening. I'm going on today, actually. There's some Alina Habba stuff that I'm very annoyed by. Put it that way.
Okay, everyone go check that out. So we have a bunch of stories that we were gonna do, but I saw in the comments that people just want us to talk wrestling for the next 30 minutes. So I think we're gonna do that instead.
Yes.
I'm kidding. You know what we should do though? At some point, let's connect right before SummerSlam and let's do a joint Instagram live where we give our predictions. I did that for WrestleMania, but we should do it together.
It could be here or there. We can throw it on a YouTuber or I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm down.
Okay, but that said, we'll get to some comments. But first, I want to jump into the first of the stories, starting with this.
Do these donors really think that Kamala Harris is going to do better in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania than Joe Biden would? I mean, that's annoying because it can't be anybody else, right?
Hey, Rob, you're being logical. Stop it, all right? She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored, therefore she's got to be good.
Oh, God. Look, this is a narrative that's been going around ever since the talk of Joe Biden possibly stepping down began. Harris seems to a lot of people like the obvious next person. She is the VP after all, and the right needs to attack her. And how are they going to do that? It couldn't be any more obvious. We have a term that we can use that lets us say that she's too black. We can just say it now. We can just say it. Oh my God, we're allowed to say it on TV. I'm in a studio. There's that camera costs $50,000 and I can just say that she's too black. I'm not gonna pass up that opportunity. Sorry, DEI hire. That's what we're gonna say. And then that's not even enough for him. He decided to kick it strangely old school with the colored. She's colored. JR, is this? I don't follow Seb Gorka very much. It's hard to. He blocked me on Twitter a long time ago, even though I don't think I'd ever talk to him. But what do you make of this?
He's an alpha male. That's why he blocked you, or whatever males they're saying are the best ones. Who knows? But no, this is the standard tactic. So from the very beginning, I saw this as soon as she even was like selected as his running mate in 20. That the only argument we have against Kamala Harris is that she's black. Oh my God, she's black. And you know what? Does that mean she's stupid? It also means that she's unqualified. It also means that she's black. Did you know that she's a woman? By the way, she's black. That's all they got. By the way, there's probably something you probably could criticize Kamala Harris over, but all they got is to calling her Kamala and then calling her and then saying, oh, but you know that she's black. All that is just this is what I continue to talk about. Just tell people what people are saying rather than going, can you believe Sebastian Gorka said that? Say Sebastian Gorka is a racist piece of garbage. Sebastian Gorka thinks that any black person is unqualified. Sebastian Gorka follows and kisses Donald Trump's ass because he thinks black folks are only qualified for black jobs. Those low-level jobs that you know they say that we're only supposed to have, that he blatantly said in that debate where Joe Biden couldn't blink. That one, the one where we said that this guy hates a significant portion of our population. Why do you support this guy? Do you agree that Kamala Harris has zero qualifications? And when they say, oh, well, yeah, list our qualifications. So what other old white, rich, pasty white men are had positions as vice president that had the exact same resume, or actually worse resumes than Kamala Harris has? How many of them? We can find them. There's facts behind these things. But instead, what they can rely on, and the reason they can rely on it, is because they're telling you that this is a racist country. So when black folks and brown folks and Asian folks and anybody else tells you, yo, there's a racist, misogynistic country, and they go, how could you? Why you hate this country? Be like, well, you're the one who's using black as an insult. You're the one who says she's a woman, therefore she can't do it as an insult. And you think it's gonna work? Why do you think it's gonna work? Because you think this country is racist.
Yeah, well, they're hoping. They are hoping that it's racist, and also, to their credit, they're working to make it more racist. They're working to make sure that their base thinks about politics exclusively through identity. That's why they talk about identity politics. It's projection. They want
100%.
people to see her as nothing but her demographic characteristics. That's it. And oh my God, are they just so happy that they have this? They had a lot of fun with CRT, but that's like they tried to make it seem as if that was something other than a pretty niche academic thing, and it just didn't really catch on. But DEI, I mean, that works in almost anything. You can mock a black pilot for being DEI, a teacher, a VP. Literally doesn't matter. You don't need to know anything. It could be a mayor who was elected, but if he's black, DEI hire. All they've wanted their whole life is to imply that people who are black have never been qualified for a position that they had. And now they have 3 letters that fix all of their problems for them. And isn't that grand? By the way, like if you forget the colored of it for a second, their argument is she was chosen to be VP, not for her qualifications, but for something else about who she is. I would like to teach them something about American politics. Every VP is chosen for something. I need that swing state. They'll be good with the Rust Belt. They come from the work. That is what the VP is. What are the qualifications to be a VP? The VP doesn't do anything, basically. It's basically to round out a ticket. And so I didn't even want Harris to be the VP, and I don't particularly want her to be the nominee. I want someone who on policy is far to the left of her. But that said, she has the qualifications to be a VP. She was a senator. She was a lawyer. She has all of the things that are necessary to be the VP. Look on the right. They chose Mike Pence because he's super religious. What do you think that they're choosing Burgum because of all of his executive experience? No, they're choosing him because he's rich. That's important to them in class sense. You think they're not thinking about Marco Rubio's race in this case? This is how VPs get chosen. But in this case, my God, do they love to focus on it when it comes to Harris.
They sent Byron Donalds to talk to black folks at a barbershop. They sent Byron Donalds to go to a cigar bar and say that Jim Crow was a great time period for black folks. Why do you think they sent Byron Donalds' ass to these places to talk about that stuff? Because he's a black guy. Yo, that's fine. That's what they want to do, except Byron Donalds is carrying the water for racists. That's the only difference. But the reason you chose him to do that is because he's black. Yo, that's just what it is. And you think he can speak to other folks who come from similar backgrounds as him. That's the purpose. So why act like this isn't a thing where you're trying to put someone in place because they speak to an electorate that you want to appeal to? It's normal because your ass doesn't know how to speak to certain cultures and people because you don't live it. It's very basic. So it's a bad thing when someone chooses someone who's competent to do that job, but it's not when you do.
100%. Okay, let's turn to something arguably crazier, starting with this.
Is Germany, Nazi, Hitler the greatest evil that's ever happened on earth, even though factually and statistically it is not? And part of that learning process for me when I started looking into it was coming across the huge fact that we ethnically, the Allies, ethnically cleansed 12 million Germans. Because when you say to people, okay, what is it about Hitler? Why is he the most evil? Well, the first thing people would say is, well, an ethnic cleansing almost took place. And now I offer back, you mean like we actually did?
Dear God. Well, that is Candace Owens taking the next step down the path that has become her life. A very lucrative path, admittedly. Her podcast does quite well, and it does so on the back of Nazi propaganda, literally doing Nazi propaganda and anti-ally attack ads, basically. So there's a lot there that she's claiming. One, that they didn't do ethnic cleansing. And I know that because we actually did it, which implies that the other one that's implied that they did it did not actually happen. So they, I guess, didn't kill 6 million Jewish people and countless others of a variety of groups, but we did because we ethnically cleansed 12 million people. Now, I have no idea where she's pulling that from. I think it's from stormfront.org or something like that. Denazification is estimated to have killed 42,000 to 80,000 due to poor conditions in detention camps. And if you want to say that having such poorly run detention camps for Nazis that it resulted in tens of thousands, that is a bad thing, then feel free to do that. But if the point of your argument is the Nazis weren't so bad, they're statistically not the greatest evil in history. Oh, also we're bad because we killed too many Nazis. That's farther than even most right-wing grifters are willing to go these days. But you should expect this sort of thing from her because she now puts out shows with episodes like, quote, literally Hitler, why can't we talk about him? And so she is talking about him, and not just about the fact that they've been unfairly tarnished as ethnic cleansers. She also doesn't like some of the specifics about the experiments they ran. Let's look at this.
On innocent people, Candace. Come on, that's the difference. They experimented on twins. I mean, some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. I'm like the idea that they just like cut a human up and then sewed them back together. Why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies. Just slice a person in half and sew them together. That just sounds like bizarre propaganda.
Yeah, so when you hear about the medical experimentation that the Nazis did, many of us say, that's terrible. I can't believe that they would do that. For her, there's no way. Not the Nazis. They wouldn't have done anything like that. You're being unfair to them. And of course, set aside all of the hard evidence that this happened. She certainly has. We know the specific accounts. A set of gypsy twins were brought back from Mengele's lab after they'd been sewn back to back. He attempted to create his own Siamese twin by connecting blood vessels and organs. They eventually died as a result of that. There's again, why even bother bringing up the evidence? Candace Owens doesn't care about evidence. She makes money by telling baseless lies to appeal to modern day Nazis. And that could not be any more clear than in this episode of hers. What do you think, Jayar?
As I said before, man, it's lucrative because that's what they know the country is. Yo, it's not us implicating the country or the people that you're appealing to in this country with those topics. It's you. No one else told you to have a title of an episode called Hitler. Why can't we talk about him? I have a good idea. Turn on maybe not A&E anymore. They stopped doing that stuff. Turn on the History Channel. Turn on any random thing on the weekend. I turn on random channels on vast cable channels that I shouldn't pay for. And I say, oh, there's another Hitler special on. And I watch another Hitler special, then another Hitler special, then a World War II in color special, then a World War II in black and white and kind of color special, then a Hitler personal accounts documentary, then a Hitler family account documentary, then there's so many things about Hitler, and we talk about Hitler so damn much. There's a reason people use his name to compare him to other politicians, because we heard all this stuff about Hitler, but for some reason, she didn't hear about those experiments. Didn't hear about that at all. Sounds like something they made up. I think that all the time, John. I see stuff that's left-leaning. Oh man, that sounds kind of made up. And I do this really weird thing. I do this crazy thing, John. You never guess. I look it up, and then part of the time I go, yeah, that was made up, and I move on. And the other part I go, man, that's for real, and I read more about it. Then you get this weird thing, it's called information in your head. And so if you think that these experiments were a waste of supplies and equipment and time, yeah. What do you think their objective was? Oh, like, well, we wanted to go fishing that day, but damn, now we got to do these experiments on these people that we're torturing and murdering and committing this genocide against. Guess we're gonna have to sit here and waste this supplies and equipment that's specifically designated to do these things. It's such stupid arguments. And again, you know why? Because it makes money.
Yep.
She's apparently made too much money now. She has to go further and further. But eventually, you jump the shark, Henry Winkler.
Yeah. It's a funny throwback. Yeah, it's a super weird career. This is, by the way, this isn't like a turn for her. It's going down the path further in defense of Nazis, but she's been defending the Nazis for some time. She's previously indicated that what they did inside of Germany was totally acceptable. It was only once they started doing stuff outside of Germany with the conquest that it suddenly became a problem. That's not what anyone thinks other than you and other modern Nazis, Candace Owens. But yeah, the whole thing is so bizarre. Speaking of experiments, needless experiments, what about needless thought experiments? They say it's the worst evil ever. Well, factually, it's not. Statistically, it's not. Why is this the fight that you're waging?
Yeah.
Who cares? If you can identify back in 1637, there was an invasion of this and it killed statistically more of the world's population. Who the hell cares? They're super evil. They killed millions of people. You choose what to spend time on your show. And what you are choosing to do is running defense for the Nazis, running defense for those who set up assembly lines of mass murder, most notably against the Jews, but against other communities as well. And now that is what she does. In pursuit of viewers, Nazi viewers, in pursuit of money, she's running defense and doing propaganda for literal Nazis. weird life choice. Anyway, with that said,
there. Good.
I don't know how you sleep when this is the life you have. She has kids, by the way. Going to be an amazing awakening for them when they start to Google who she is and what she did while they were young. Anyway, with that said, I'll leave her to that awkward Thanksgiving someday. For now, though, why don't we turn to our next baddie in our baddie block? Okay. By the way, 2ski42 says, Jayar is the most intelligent person on TYT. I've always said this and keep saying it. Okay, now, sorry to the control room. I just wanted to read that. Now let's turn to our next baddie. I think most people believe that the Secret Service probably should have been paying attention to Alex Jones for some time, at least once he started talking about wanting to eat his neighbors' asses if he becomes too hungry. But I think that the likelihood of surveillance is going to go up after his most recent effort on Twitter. According to journalist David Leavitt, he had one of their spaces things or whatever, and assassinate Biden was pretty prominently placed in it. Now, to be fair to Alex Jones, it was, will the deep state assassinate Biden if he refuses to leave? Because everything has to be a conspiracy. You have to simultaneously believe that the deep state is so evil and so powerful that they will murder the president to get what they want, but also so weak and powerless that they're just waiting to see what will happen and maybe we'll have to kill him. I mean, we couldn't force him out in any other way. Oh, and also, suddenly Biden isn't the deep state. Suddenly Biden will be killed by the deep state. He is not himself part of the deep state, which they've been saying every day for literally years. So weird how that works. But that is his thing. They're gonna have a big discussion of assassinating Biden. Not them, they're not gonna do it, but the deep state. And by the way, this is not the first time that they've done this. It's happened on his show as well. Take a look.
They have a lot of runway to try to replace him, do they?
God forbid we don't wish that on him. But look, the people who killed John F. Kennedy are perfectly capable of killing him. It's not the exact same people, of course, but it's the same institution. There's people who tried to kill Ronald Reagan.
It was handed down. These people are a couple generations down from, it's like L.L. Lemnitzer that Kennedy fired was then the boss over Rumsfeld, but they pass on the spirit.
That is exactly right.
There are like 3.5 brain cells between them. Anyway, they're talking about how the deep state is gonna kill him. So they just every day, deep state's gonna kill him, deep state's gonna kill him. And obviously they don't want that to happen because I don't wanna make anybody mad, but they want him to be the nominee against Donald Trump. They're being very open and honest about that. And Jayar, this is what they do. Like they talk constantly because they want you to be afraid of the deep state. And so they talk constantly about how they're gonna kill literally everyone. They're gonna kill Alex Jones, they're gonna kill Joe Biden. Oh, they're definitely gonna kill Donald Trump. Every day they talk about how they're gonna kill Donald Trump, and yet he lives for some reason. Why is the deep state going to allow this warrior who's gonna take them down to get in office? Why don't they shoot him in the head?
Why
this is not a rhetorical question. I am asking a serious question to the right. Why haven't they killed him? Why did Donald Trump serve 4 years in office? Why didn't they kill him? If they're the deep state and they can do literally anything they want, they have the means, they have the motive, they're psychotic. Why did he serve in office? Why is he going to again? Why didn't they just have him choke on a filet-o-fish years ago?
You know,
anyway,
we're living in that utopia of America for those 4 years that Donald Trump was in office, as he keeps talking about. The skies were bluer and the grass was greener. And for some reason, all these anti-American lefties didn't go and murder him. Yo, remember Marjorie Taylor Greene said at that debate where Biden stumbled all over the place, before that debate, she goes, he's gonna go into a room where CNN wants him dead, where Joe Biden wants to murder him. And afterwards, no one asked Marjorie Taylor Greene, where was the murder? Where's the murder weapon? Where's the blood, agent? Like no one ever asked them to put up or to actually back up their BS that they say beforehand. They just talk and then they just talk. Sleepy Joe Biden is coming for Donald Trump until Sleepy Joe Biden is sleepy. Bro, you gotta choose one, you gotta choose one. How does his sleepy ass kill someone? And how does the deep state, who's not been dismantled because Donald Trump has came in and broke up the entire deep state. Did he break it up or does he have to break it up with Project 2025? It doesn't make any sense, it never does. So you only have to ask like 1 to 2 follow-up questions, that's it. Their entire story is dismantled because all it is a constant state of a cloud of stupidity around everybody so that you have no idea what's up or down.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make any sense because they can make all these predictions. They all turn out wrong. They're never called on it. No one watching that show will remember any of the insane predictions they made that didn't turn out to be true.
100%.
They just have to be wild because the people who are watching it are self-selected for wanting to believe that nothing happens randomly, nothing is a coincidence. Somebody's pulling the strings on literally everything at all times. And that's how they go through life.
But not Donald Trump and not these folks who are talking about trying to reshape our entire democracy. They're 100%. Not doing anything though.
So frustrating. But yeah, FBI. Look at this guy because he is talking about cannibalizing people and he's routinely talking about politicians being killed. Anyway, we only have another minute or two. I don't think we have time to turn to Don Jr., but that's okay because we have something more important to talk about. And I have to do this because I don't know when you'll be on next. What do you make of Cody Rhodes' title reign so far? How long is he gonna have the belt and who's gonna take him down? What do you think?
Well, it sucks because Cody Rhodes' title reign is exactly what I thought it would be, boring. Filled with him getting his
it could be worse.
Every time. I mean, Alex Jones will probably want, he's figured he'll cannibalize his ass. Because every time he's in a vulnerable situation, someone is beating him down. And after he gets beat down, then he comes back and he wins. Because it's a heroic Cody Rhodes. I mean, give him an edge. Give him an edge. I don't even dislike the dude that much. I just hate the storyline they keep going with. He walks out, all he does is smile. Oh, he's in the middle of a sentence. And then the crowd goes crazy.
They do like him.
Stop. We get it. We get it. We get it. Yeah. Oh, you're Captain America. We got it. But we already got those in Marvel. We've seen that. That movie was made better. He doesn't have to do body slams. He flies and throws his hard shield around.
But is he Captain America or will he become Homelander? That's what everyone's waiting to find out.
Right.
Okay, then you're not really buying it. I think the run's been okay. I skipped the Logan Paul match because I'm not gonna watch that. But
Logan
I think
Paul has edge.
I'm not interested.
He's annoying. And he's worth watching.
100%. No, I'm good. But anyway, are you buying Bloodline 2.0? Are you buying Solo Sikoa?
That's going to be one of the better wrap ups because look, whether Jimmy comes back, whether Roman comes back, it's gonna be a very good comeback. You think the comeback of Rhea was great? Wait to see the comeback of Roman Reigns.
I think they kind of fumbled the comeback of Rhea. I would have had it happen at SummerSlam. I know that they want to have the match at SummerSlam, but I think that it was too low key. When Roman comes back, it's gonna be huge. I think Solo's doing everything that he can, and the stuff with Paul Heyman has been good.
Yeah, that's so good.
I don't think he could beat him. But anyway,
did you hear that Paul? Last week, do I have to have 5 seconds?
Yes.
Did you hear that Paul Heyman, before he got beat down by the Bloodline and basically kicked out, that my kid told me this because he researches everything, that he didn't sleep the whole night before so he could look raggedy and haggard and really just like
he did look
sleep.
haggard.
He literally didn't sleep so that he looked like he didn't sleep.
Paul Heyman is amazing and
he's committed.
He took a bump through the table. Like I would not have expected that. But anyway, thank you, Jayar. It is a pleasure to have you here. Let's talk more wrestling soon.
We may do this again. We'll see how the rest of my day comes out, but it may have worked out. We'll see.
Okay. Fingers crossed. I know everybody in the audience would love to see you back. Everybody, send in your comments, your tweets, message Jayar, go to the watch list, and then post comments about how he needs to come on the Damage Report more. That's the best way to make it happen.
Let him know.
Yes. Okay, so everybody, thank you for watching. Tomorrow, Brett Ehrlich will be here. We'll be throwing away our Garbage People of the Week. You can go to the community tab on our YouTube page to go vote for the Community Garbage Person of the Week, and we'll feed them well. For now, though, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.